Hey folks, it's your boy B Block. Today I'm on here to comment about DeSean Jackson's post that everybody's in a big uproar over, and with all the claims of anti-Semitism that's being thrown at him for this post. Now I'm familiar with this post. I seen this post about maybe 5 or 6 years ago with some of the statements that Hitler made about America being in possession of God's jewels, which are the Negro people, and the fact that America was going to give the Jewish people Israel if they won the war. So I've read all of that, and to me, it's just information. To me, it's equivalent to the same thing I learned when I went to school, and they pulled these history books out and introduced me to a narrative of myself that I had never heard before attending these schools, that slavery narrative. And let me elaborate on that a little further. Never heard a story from my parents about it. After I started learning it in school, they really had no stories about it as far as their grandmother was in it or their grandfather was in it. So it seemed like this narrative only came from one place, and it was coming from school. So it may be true, it may be not. As far as I'm concerned, and where I stand now, being a much older gentleman who's done some research of world history and theology and archaeology and a lot of these disciplines on my own, and found that a lot of what I learned is just not true. It's just false. It's just a narrative. So when I take that narrative that I was educated on and I compare it to the narrative on this post, to me they're about equal. They're about equal. So let me elaborate on what I'm saying. What the Jewish people suffered at the hands of the Nazi regime was horrible. The amount of people who lost their lives over an ideology that was false is just despicable. But I think that only occurred, and I'm not a historian, so I might not have my years. And even if I want to be generous with the amount of years that this occurred, 10, 20 years of suffering, and you get a country. Not only do you get a country, you get a country by displacing a group of people that's already in the country. And not only are these people displaced, you also get all kinds of military support. So you're stronger military than all the surrounding people that you've taken land from. And you get economic support. For 2 decades of suffering, and I'm probably being generous with this 2 decades. Now, when I look at on the other side of the coin, there's actually groups of people of color that don't even exist anymore. They've been wiped off the face of the earth because of this colonial expansion. I'm not even going to talk about that. I'm not going to get too deeply in that, but know that there's people that don't exist because of colonial expansion. These people are completely, genocide was thorough and complete with these people. Now you have the group of people that you see protesting all over the world, which is a collaborative of a lot of people who have woken up and kind of realized who the real enemy is, and it's not each other. But you have a group of people who've been suffering for 400 years, who's lost way more than 6 million people. And all they've gotten and all that is the right to vote for your oppressor. I say no more.